A husband throws his wife and 3 children out of the house because they do not look like him. 10 years later, they return, and what happens at that door will leave you in shock. Was it revenge? Was it forgiveness? Or something far more terrifying? Stay with me till the end, because the truth will change everything you thought you knew. Houses in the countryside stood quietly under the golden evening sky. Birds returned to their nests, while the sound of crickets echoed in the tall grass. Inside one house, however, silence was heavy with bitterness. A husband glared at his wife and their 3 children. Their faces looked different from his own. Their eyes, their smiles, their skin tones, none of them matched him. His voice was sharp as a knife when he shouted, "You are not mine. Leave this house." The wife clutched the children tightly, her body trembling. The youngest boy buried his face in her skirt, not understanding the storm of hatred. Tears rolled silently down the woman's cheeks, but her gaze remained strong. She gathered what little she had and led the children into the night. The moon hung cold above them as they walked away. The house they once called home faded into the shadows. 10 years passed. The children grew, their faces carrying a beauty that drew whispers from everyone who saw them. One evening, the husband, now older and weary, heard a knock at his door. The sound was slow, deliberate, heavy with purpose. When he opened it, his breath froze. Standing before him were 3 figures, tall and silent. Their eyes burned with a strange intensity, as if carrying secrets carved by time. Their resemblance to him was unmistakable now. Yet there was something more, something unsettling. Their presence filled the air with an energy he had never felt before. The eldest spoke, his voice deep, echoing like it came from more than one throat. "Father, the truth has returned." The husband staggered back, his hands trembling against the wooden doorframe. The lantern beside him flickered, casting long, distorted shadows across the walls. His throat tightened, but no sound escaped. The children stepped into the house without waiting for permission. The air grew heavy, almost suffocating. The youngest, now a tall figure with sharp eyes, closed the door behind them. The sound of the latch locking echoed like a final judgment. The wife appeared from behind them, her hair streaked with silver, her expression unreadable. Her gaze pierced him, steady and unyielding. The man's knees weakened as he whispered, "You should not be here." The eldest son leaned forward, his face so close the husband could smell the strange metallic scent on his breath. "You cast us out," he said, his tone slow and deliberate. "You told us we were not yours." The room seemed to shrink, the walls pressing in with every word. The wife finally spoke, her voice calm but sharp enough to cut. "For 10 years you lived in comfort, while we lived in truth." The husband's eyes darted between their faces, searching for some escape. But the faces staring back were no longer simply human. Their eyes shimmered faintly, like reflections of fire hidden deep within. And then the eldest son said words that made the man's heart pound painfully. "The blood you denied is the blood that now claims you." The husband's breath quickened, each inhale shallow and sharp. The silence inside the room pressed against his ears like a weight. He could hear the faint ticking of the old clock on the wall, louder than ever before. The wife stepped closer, her eyes glinting in the dim lantern light. "You never asked why they looked different," she whispered. "You only chose to hate." The husband's lips trembled. "What are you saying?" The eldest son raised his hand slowly, palm open. Beneath the skin, faint lines glowed as if veins carried fire instead of blood. The husband stumbled backward, knocking over the chair behind him. The wooden legs scraped against the floor, shrieking in the silence. The youngest daughter finally spoke, her voice soft yet chilling. "You told us we were not yours, but we are more yours than you ever imagined." Her eyes shimmered, reflecting the lantern's flame, until the flame itself bent toward her gaze. The air around them rippled with heat, though no fire burned. The wife's voice was steady, calm, unshaken. "The blood you gave them awakened something ancient, something you tried to deny." The husband's mind raced, but his body refused to move. Every breath felt like it was being pulled from him, stolen by the heavy air. The eldest son leaned closer, his whisper like thunder inside the man's skull. "You gave us life. Now you will see what that life truly is." The lantern flame stretched unnaturally, bending toward the children as if drawn by an unseen force. The shadows on the wall twisted, forming shapes that did not belong to human bodies. The husband's knees buckled, and he collapsed onto the wooden floor. His palms pressed against the boards, slick with his own sweat. The eldest son's eyes flared brighter, glowing like embers from a deep furnace. The youngest boy opened his mouth, but the sound that poured out was not a voice. It was a low hum, vibrating the air, rattling the glass in the windows. The wife did not move, her calmness more terrifying than the storm around her. "You thought they were not yours," she said quietly. "But it was your blood that awakened the fire sleeping in them." The husband shook his head violently, his voice cracking. No, this is not real." The daughter stepped forward, her footsteps silent, her presence heavy. When she touched the wooden table, the surface blackened and cracked beneath her fingertips. The smell of charred wood filled the room, sharp and suffocating. The husband's breath came in ragged gasps, his eyes wide with terror. The eldest son crouched, so their faces were level, his gaze unblinking. "You sent us into the dark," he whispered. "And in the dark, we found what you feared most." The wife finally bent down, her face inches from a husband's. Her whisper was soft, yet it cut deeper than any scream. "The truth is not that they were never yours." Her lips curled into the faintest, coldest smile. "The truth is, they are more you than you will ever be." The husband's body shook as if every bone inside him was rattling loose. The air was thick, charged, humming with an invisible current that pressed against his skin. His heartbeat pounded in his ears, a deafening drum drowning out all thought. The eldest son placed his glowing hand on the husband's chest. A surge of heat shot through him, burning yet leaving no mark. He screamed, but the sound cracked and broke, swallowed by the heavy silence. The wife's eyes never left his face, calm, unblinking, merciless. "You always believed strength came from control," she whispered. "But strength came from what you abandoned." The daughter moved closer, her shadow stretching across the floor like dark water. Her voice rang out, clear and sharp, carrying an authority far older than her years. "Father, the fire in us is the fire in you." The husband gasped, his body convulsing as the heat inside spread. His veins lit up faintly beneath his skin, glowing with the same fiery lines as theirs. He clawed at his arms, his chest, desperate to tear the light out. But the fire only grew brighter, pulsing with every terrified breath. The eldest son leaned in, his words slow and heavy, each one striking like a hammer. "You denied us. But you cannot deny yourself." The husband's eyes widened as the realization struck, a wave of terror greater than the pain. The very thing he cast out, the very blood he despised, was alive inside him. And it was awakening. The glow beneath his skin spread, crawling up his neck, his face, until his features shone with a burning light. Sweat poured down his temples, stinging his eyes, yet he could not wipe it away. His fingers twisted unnaturally, joints cracking, nails blackening as if charred from within. The smell of smoke seeped from his body, sharp, bitter, clinging to the air. He clawed at the floor, leaving scorched trails where his hands touched the wood. The children stood in silence, their gazes fixed on him, as though watching a long-awaited truth unfold. The wife remained still, her expression neither cruel nor kind, but final. The husband's mouth opened, but no words came, only a gasp, raw and broken. Then a deep sound rose from his chest, not his voice, but something buried beneath it. A rumble, ancient, like stone cracking under fire. His eyes flared wide, glowing like twin furnaces, burning away the man he once was. The walls of the house groaned, the lantern burst, and darkness swallowed the room. Yet the glow from his body lit everything, throwing monstrous shapes against the walls. The daughter whispered softly, almost tenderly, You see now, father. The eldest son straightened, his shadow towering. You are not the man you believed. The youngest stepped closer, his hand hovering just above the husband's burning shoulder. You are what you feared. The husband tried to scream, but the sound twisted, splitting into something inhuman. His voice cracked the silence, shaking the house to its foundation. And in that terrible cry, the last of his humanity shattered. His body convulsed violently, every bone stretching, every muscle tearing against itself. The glow beneath his skin erupted in jagged lines, as though fire was carving its way out. His back arched, and a searing crack split the air as something pushed from beneath his shoulder blades. Blackened ridges tore through flesh, twisting upward into shapes that did not belong to any man. The stench of burning flesh and ash filled the room, choking the air. His scream deepened, no longer human, vibrating through the floorboards, rattling every nail in the house. The children did not move, their eyes fixed, unafraid. The wife's face remained calm, her silence colder than any judgment. The husband's skin peeled in places, glowing like molten stone beneath fragile cracks. His hands deformed into claws, leaving smoking grooves in the wooden floor. The ceiling trembled, dust raining down, as if the very house recoiled from him. His eyes, now blazing pits of fire, turned toward his family. For a moment, there was recognition, fear, sorrow, desperation, all fighting in the burning depths. But the fire consumed it, swallowing every trace of the man he once was. The eldest son stepped forward, his voice steady, carrying the weight of truth. You are no longer our father. The daughter's whisper followed, soft yet merciless. You are what the blood demanded. The youngest boy's hand finally touched the creature's arm. The glow flared violently, a surge of energy shaking the walls. The husband roared, his voice splitting the night, echoing far beyond the house. And in that roar was no man at all. The roar rattled through the earth, rolling out into the night like thunder without end. Birds scattered from the trees, animals fled from the fields, the silence of the countryside shattered. Inside the house, the creature that had once been a man towered, its body glowing with molten veins. Its breath was fire, each exhale searing the air, curling smoke against the ceiling beams. The children stood firm, shadows cast long by the blaze of their father's form. The wife raised her hand slightly, her eyes fixed on the monster before her. Do you understand now? She said, her voice steady, unwavering. The creature's burning eyes flickered, as though a memory still fought within. But the fire surged again, drowning the faint trace of humanity. With a deafening crack, its claws tore through the table, splintering wood into blackened fragments. The daughter stepped forward, her voice cutting through the chaos. You were the one who denied us. Her words struck like a blade, and the creature staggered, growling deep in its chest. The eldest son lifted his arm, his palm glowing brighter, matching the fire in their father. You are not our enemy, he said firmly. You are our beginning. The youngest boy pressed his hand harder against the monster's arm. The glow spread, wrapping around the father's body like chains forged from light and heat. The beast roared again, the sound shaking glass and bone alike. But this time, it was not in rage. It was in pain. The children's glow pulsed stronger, their fire answering his, binding it, forcing it to bend. The wife's voice filled the room, low and final. This is not the end of you. This is the truth of you. The creature's body convulsed, torn between fury and surrender, its molten veins flaring in violent rhythm. And then, with a sound like stone cracking under fire, it began to kneel. The floor groaned as the creature sank lower, its claws digging into the wood, scorching deep marks into the grain. Flames licked from its mouth with every ragged breath, but its body shuddered as though fighting against itself. The eldest son stepped closer, his glowing hand pressing against the creature's forehead. The light flared, bright enough to throw the entire house into a world of fire and shadow. The creature roared, a sound so deep it rattled the marrow of their bones. The daughter raised her voice, steady and sharp, cutting through the roar. Father, You cannot run from what you are." Her words echoed, not in the air, but in the burning core of the beast. The youngest tightened his grip, his small body trembling but unyielding. Their fire began to pulse together, a rhythm, a heartbeat not of three, but of one. The wife lowered her gaze, her hands clasped tightly in front of her chest. She whispered, though her voice carried like thunder, "The blood that cursed you is the blood that binds you." The creature's eyes flickered wildly, flames shifting, faltering, shrinking, then bursting bright again. It slammed its claws into the floor, splitting the boards, sparks flying. The house shook, walls groaning as dust rained from the beams. The eldest son gritted his teeth, his voice rising in command. "Submit to us or burn the world." The creature froze, trembling, caught between fury and surrender. Its breath grew harsher, shorter, flames flickering with desperation. For the first time, the glow in its chest dimmed. A guttural sound escaped, half growl, half cry. And slowly, as if dragged by unseen chains, the great burning form bent lower still until its head touched the floor. The fire inside hissed, struggling, but the body had begun to yield. The room trembled with the weight of the moment. The creature knelt, its massive form hunched, shoulders heaving with the strain of resisting and yielding at once. Its claws dug deep into the floorboards, smoke rising from the charred wood. The glow of its veins pulsed erratically, a storm trapped inside flesh. The children held their stance, their fire locked with his, binding, pulling, forcing him down. The eldest son's hand pressed harder against the blazing forehead. His voice was low, but carried the force of command. "You will not destroy us. You will become us." The creature let out a guttural cry, its body convulsing, flames bursting violently from its chest. The heat washed over them, burning the air, searing the walls black. Still, the daughter did not move. Her eyes burned brighter, steady, unwavering. "Father, you are not alone. The fire is ours to carry." The youngest boy's grip tightened, his small voice breaking through the roar. "You belong with us." For a moment, the flames inside the beast flickered weakly, like a candle fighting against the wind. Its head lifted slightly, molten eyes flickering between rage and despair. The wife stepped forward, her bare feet silent on the scorched wood. She knelt before the creature, her face level with what remained of her husband. Her hand rose slowly, calmly, and rested on his burning chest. The fire did not consume her. It calmed. The glow in his veins dimmed, the furious tremor stilled, the roar in his throat sank to a low, broken breath. And for the first time, the monster shuddered not in fury but in grief. A sound like a sob escaped, warped and ragged, shaking the room more than any roar before it. The sob echoed through the house, a hollow, trembling sound that chilled the air more than the fire ever had. The creature's great body shook, its claws retracting slightly, dragging across the scorched wood. Smoke curled upward, but the flames inside its veins flickered lower, softer, almost fragile. The children's glow pulsed in rhythm with his, binding light to light, fire to fire. The eldest son's face hardened, though his eyes trembled with something close to pity. "Do you feel it now?" he asked. The creature lifted its head, and for a fleeting moment, the molten glow in its eyes dimmed enough to reveal a trace of the man once buried there. The daughter's voice softened, no longer a blade, but a thread. "Father, it was never about denying us. It was about denying yourself." The youngest boy leaned against the massive arm, his small frame dwarfed by the burning flesh. His words cracked with innocence, but they cut the deepest. "We waited for you." The wife's hand pressed firmly against the creature's chest, her voice low, steady, final. 10 years of pain. 10 years of truth. This is the moment you choose. Are you man, or are you the fire that devours? The creature let out a long, shuddering breath. Its shoulders slumped, its form trembling on the edge of collapse. The glow within dimmed further, fading like embers beneath ash. For the first time, the room grew quiet. No roar, no crackling fire, Only the sound of breathing. Heavy, broken, human. The wife lowered her gaze, her lips parting just enough for the words to escape. Come back. The silence stretched, thick, unbearable, until the creature's eyes closed. And a single tear, hot as steam, slid down its scorched cheek. The tear hissed as it struck the blackened floor, vanishing into a curl of steam. The children did not release him. Their hands still glowed, binding his fire within their own. The eldest son's jaw tightened, sensing the fragile balance trembling inside their father's body. He is close, he whispered, though his voice carried unease. The daughter's eyes fixed on the tears' fading trail of smoke. One drop of sorrow does not wash away 10 years of fury, she said, her tone both hopeful and cold. The youngest boy pressed his cheek against the beast's arm, whispering like a prayer. Please stay. The creature stirred, its shoulders heaving with every labored breath. Beneath its cracked skin, the molten light surged, brightened, then dimmed again, fighting itself. A guttural sound rose in its throat, halfway between a growl and a sob. The wife leaned closer, her hand unmoving on his chest. Her voice was low, deliberate, each word heavy as stone. Your blood made them fire. Your hate made them strong. But only you can decide what you become now. The creature's eyes opened slowly. The molten glow had thinned, and behind it, pupils, human, fragile, drowning, flickered through the flames. Its mouth opened, cracked lips parting, a voice torn from depths of agony. I see them. The eldest son's grip faltered, shock flashing across his face. The daughter's glow wavered, her breath catching. The youngest boy lifted his head, hope burning brighter than fear. The creature trembled, flames shuddering wildly inside, as if a storm raged against the fragile thread of humanity returning. The house shook with the strain, beams groaning, walls creaking, the floor threatening to give. And in that chaos, a sound broke free, a human cry, sharp, desperate, unmistakable. It was his voice. The cry filled the house, raw and human, echoing through the burned walls until silence swallowed it whole. The creature's body slumped, its fiery veins dimming like dying embers. The glow from the children's hands softened, fading into a warm light rather than a blaze. For the first time in years, the air inside the house felt still. The wife removed her hand from his chest, her gaze steady, neither forgiving nor condemning. She simply whispered, "You have returned." The husband's form shrank, the monstrous ridges collapsing, the claws retreating into trembling hands. His skin was scarred, blackened, but his eyes, though hollow with sorrow, were human once more. He felt his knees, no longer as a beast, but as a broken man. The eldest son stepped back, his face unreadable. The daughter turned away, tears glimmering though she did not let them fall. The youngest boy stayed close, resting his small hand on his father's shoulder, unafraid. The man looked up at them, his voice cracking, fragile as glass. I sent you away, and yet you brought me back. No one answered. The silence was heavier than any flame, but it was not cruel. It was a silence that acknowledged what had been lost, and what could never be undone. The wife turned and opened the door. Night air swept in, cool, carrying the scent of earth and distant rain. She looked back once, her voice soft, final. Step outside. Leave the fire behind. The man staggered to his feet, his body trembling, his heart heavier than the scars he carried. And together, with his family around him, he stepped into the night, no longer the man who had cast them out, but not yet the man they could call father again. The stars burned faintly above, distant, silent witnesses to the truth revealed at last.